So you may be wondering what ecosystem services are exactly.
Ecosystem services are benefits that we receive from nature, such as crop pollination, clean drinking water, and recreational opportunities.
So, take this apple for example. What all goes into it? Well, when you look at it, you have to think about the pollination that occurred so that the fruit could form. You also have to think about the water that goes into growing the tree and the soil that supports the whole system. So, ecosystem services can be really easily wrapped up in our morning breakfast.
Although ecosystem services may seem free, there is a monetary value attached to each service.
So what happens when these services are taken for granted and degraded?
Well, the reality of ecosystem services is that we are all downstream. They will often get degraded, and the next person to use these services suffers.
This is where the concept of payment for ecosystem services comes in. Let's see how it works.
The whole process of ecosystem services begins high up in the mountains as snow melts and runs off into the rivers. As this water continues to travel downstream, it's taken out by people and used for various needs. However, as the water gets taken out more and more, often it becomes polluted and impure. As the water begins to become more and more polluted, the cost associated with purifying it for human needs increases. This is where the concept of payment for ecosystem services and the groups like the CCE come into play. What the CCE is trying to do is create what is called a watershed investment fund for the Poudre watershed. Under this watershed investment fund, investors that rely on clean water, such as breweries or utilities, will pay into the fund, which is then used by natural resource professionals like the CCE to give back to land stewards like ranchers, and pay for better management practices to clean the river upstream. Once established, this watershed investment fund ends up being a win-win situation for everyone involved. The investors, such as utilities or breweries, do not need to pay as much for water purification, and land stewards like ranchers are getting the funding they need to continue their land use without harming the environment. However, this whole process of creating a watershed investment fund does not rely solely on investors and land stewards and natural resource professionals. It also relies on the general public getting involved and supporting groups like the CCE.
So what does this mean for you? Well, the CCE is putting together a watershed investment fund. This fund will go to help support local land managers and encourage them to adopt practices that preserve and protect our ecosystem services. In the end, everyone comes out on top.
And what can you do to get involved? Make sure to check out the Colorado Conservation Exchange on Facebook and continue to support local businesses partnering with the CCE.